All right, everybody, welcome back to the Teardown, day one of NASCAR, the NASCAR antitrust case here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Jordan and I are just back from the courtroom. We've been there all day. It was a long day, actually, Jordan. I think it was. I knew it was going to be long, but I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be a long trial."
It's actually going to get worse. I actually thought today was better than I expected because there was a little bit more breakups. So the jury snafu, the juror snafu there, and so we had a 30-minute break we weren't expecting, and it was like kind of broken up a little bit more. It's only going to get longer, man. It's only getting longer. I will say, let me say this: the jury selection was kind of like, okay, all right, whatever, right? Though there are some couple nuggets we're gonna have to talk about because there were some funny things that happened there. And then the opening, statements were interesting, but really it's what we knew, it's what we expected. Like we know that 2311 in the front row, and Jeffrey Kessler, their attorney, was going to focus on the monopolistic stuff, right? And then NASCAR's attorneys were going to focus kind of on the contract, and that was, that was going to be their focus in all of this. And then once kind of got that out of the way, and then Denny Hamlin was the first witness today. That was interesting. So
yeah, that's what we're gonna do here. My plan. I haven't even talked to Jordan about it, but I hope you'll be okay with this plan. Is we're gonna read through my notes here, and Jordan, interject and add your own impressions as we go through this. We're just gonna go in order rather than trying to, because we're just coming out of courtroom and we're gonna be doing this each day. So I think it's just better to say, here's everything that happened, or here's the notable things that we thought were interesting, and then we'll just go through it. So we're not leading with the most interesting to the least. We're just going through it. So
chronological.
Yeah, no, that's what we're doing. So in this case, we got in the courtroom, and it was jury selection this morning, and they brought in there was probably 30-ish people there.
I wish I had the exact number, but
there's about 30 people there. Obviously, these jurors are not happy, right? Like the judge is telling them, "Hey, welcome to the courtroom. This is going to be a 2-week trial." We get that you have a life, but sorry, but
can we talk about the sod guy?
Yeah, sod guy. Let's talk about sod guy.
So real quick, there are some legitimate reasons that people could not need to be
people
legit. They're taking care of their elderly parents.
I have a parent with dementia, and I am their sole caretaker. Yeah. You're excused.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, there was a scheduling issue at daycare. One of the only good reasons to have kids, I guess you get out of jury duty. And so, and sod guy, like
sod guy.
This is the best.
This guy says, they say, raise your hand if you can't serve today. This guy says, I have a truckload of sod coming today, and I only have 2 days to get it laid down.
Just after, people are talking about, hey, I gotta go take care of my parents. They're sick. I have an
out-of-town wedding that I gotta go.
And I've already got the plane tickets bought. It's an important wedding. You can be there for. This guy, hand up in the air. I got sod coming. I gotta be there for this. I only got 2 days. So who thinks that's sod? This is a good reason?
Interestingly enough, sod guy ends up getting dismissed.
No, we should hang on. Let's look again.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, then he is put on the panel.
Yeah. So then he's on.
Then he's on the panel.
The original 12 that they're narrowing down from.
From this group of 30-ish, they picked 12, and he then ended up picking him, which I would hope somebody just decided this is the stupidest excuse ever. We're putting this guy on here just to mess.
He didn't make the final jury, but he made the part where they whittled down. Yeah.
And then he gets on the panel and they ask him a bunch of questions. Then he got excused.
But so I can't remember what his reason was that he got excused.
I got it.
But I think he's the one that said. Is he the one that said, I used to watch NASCAR with my dad, and my opinion is NASCAR has killed NASCAR?
I think that is the guy.
Yeah, that is him. I put an arrow pointed at it. Yeah, so he goes off. He says, NASCAR has killed NASCAR. So he gets excused, and he walks past Michael Jordan as he's walking out, sod guy, and he like winked and
I forgot about the
pointed at Michael Jordan.
Like, yeah, like that's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he wasn't the only juror that do this.
Yeah.
There was multiple jurors today that got excused.
2 people got excused for being Michael Jordan fans. One guy said, I like Mike.
Yeah, I like Mike. Another
guy said he had posters of Michael Jordan, and he couldn't wait to tell his son what he was doing today. And they both walked out. The one guy that said he said, I like Mike. He walked out. He walked past Jordan. He was like, yeah. He gave him a fist bump. So, there's one woman was a Hendrick Motorsports fan.
Yep.
And when they asked if anybody had an opinion about Denny Hamlin that would cause them to have any issues,
she had an opinion.
She was dismissed because she said she had strong feelings about Denny Hamlin and she could not remain impartial. So she was dismissed.
She should have kept her mouth shut. Like if she really hates Denny Hamlin,
they're all under oath.
I understand.
Yeah.
Then we had a Hendrick Automotive employee.
Yes.
He was also excused.
He got excused for working for Hendrick Automotive Group because they said Rick Hendrick's going to be a potential witness, and would that be a problem for you?
He's like, that's kind of my boss. Like, I don't really,
Right. It was interesting though that there was not. Remember, we're in Charlotte, right? So there's not a lot of NASCAR knowledge at all. So first of all, only 3 people out of the remaining 23 after Sod Guy had even heard of this case when they were asked. Only 3 out of 23 people even knew this lawsuit existed. And only 3, they whittled it down some more after the I Like Mike guy and the other Jordan fan left. Only 3 out of 19 people said they were even motorsports fans at all. And one of those guys was an NHRA fan, not a NASCAR fan.
Can we talk about the juror who, on his jury form, they ask your hobbies? And what was his hobby, Jeff? This is so good.
Heavy drinking.
Heavy drinking.
But that guy made it.
He didn't.
That guy's on the jury.
Sure.
That's
NASCAR's audience right there, man. They got one on there.
The heavy drinking guy that's on the jury, they asked him, will your hobby and recreation of heavy drinking be an issue for you at the trial? And he was like, no.
They didn't clarify. They did ask him, was he being serious? And he said, I was being sarcastic.
Yeah.
So,
so we assume he's not heavily drinking during the trial. That's what he put on his jury.
I mean, if he is, share with the rest of us.
So,
it's just, we don't can't bring like water in there, for goodness sake. So you're bringing a flask in, pass it around.
A couple other things before we move on from the jury stuff. The people, was it the judge that asked them to name their favorite athlete?
Yes.
The judge asked the jurors to name their favorite athlete. I think he was trying to see if people would say Michael Jordan.
Yes, they were trying to gauge, the NASCAR.
So driver. We got Jeter, Ohtani, Johnny Unitas,
Messi,
Ronaldo, Messi, and Jack Nicklaus. Yep. Those were the favorite athletes.
Well, he said Jack Nicklaus' son.
Did he?
He said Jack Nicklaus' son. He meant Jack Nicklaus, but he said Jack Nicklaus' son.
Almost all of them were not interested in NASCAR. 2 people said they were interested in golf. 2 people said they were interested in soccer. Some people said they were interested in college football. The judge said he talked about who he rooted for. The judge said, well, how about Wake Forest? That's where I went. And the juror said, I'm sorry. So
the judge is Bell's quips, by the way, are like, he's
a very entertaining judge.
He really is.
Because right before, and as an aside to the jury thing, before the actual trial started, the judge told both sides, both attorneys, that they had both objected to each other's opening statements, and the judge said that the opening statements were riddled with impermissible arguments, and so he was not going to allow any of them to present any exhibits during the opening statements at all, which were 75 minutes each. Yeah, by the way,
we could have trimmed that down. By the way, like I was talking to people afterwards, like that could have
admit it. Were your eyelids getting heavy? Because mine were getting a little.
Did
heavy.
You doze off at any point?
I didn't doze, but I'm telling you, they were getting heavy.
Oh yeah,
did you doze?
I'm not saying I dozed. It might have been close. It was real close.
It was.
I don't know if I would have passed inspection. Let's just put that.
Yeah, it was close.
The Bell also made a son-in-law joke. How his father-in-law told him, like, you're only a son-in-law. You don't matter as much.
Yeah, he said that. But anyway, so he told the about the no exhibits in the opening statements. He told the attorneys, if we can be less confrontational about it next time, maybe you'll get to do what you want to do.
It's great. Quickly with my notes here, the woman the judge went around and asked about leadership qualities, or I don't know if actually it was a judge, maybe one of the sides. They went around and say, what about leadership qualities? Are you somebody who kind of takes charge and that kind of thing? Woman said, yes, I am really good at planning family get-togethers, and I'm in charge of planning family Christmas for 24 people.
Yes, and she got dismissed.
She got dismissed.
She got dismissed.
So good.
So there was one minor sort of thing, I guess not minor to the parties involved, but NASCAR had invoked, I guess, a rule that says that each side can only have one corporate representative in there, where Michael Jordan was selected for 2311. Jim France is NASCAR's corporate representative. And so the teams were objecting this because they were like, we really need Denny's knowledge at the table with the attorneys, and Curtis Polk. He was a defendant at one point in this case, in the countersuit. So can we get him in there? NASCAR still says no. The judge says he's going to very reluctantly agree with NASCAR because he doesn't want this to be overturned on appeal. He only wants to try this case once. He said, I really do wish you could be here to Hamlin and Polk. And so what they did ultimately, we'll get to in a little bit, was Denny Hamlin went first. So they can be in the courtroom after they testify.
Yes.
But so that Hamlin was able to go first. So now he will finish his testimony tomorrow. He'll be able to be in there the entire trial. But anyway, time for opening statements?
No, let's. We need to run through the potential witnesses because that had not been disclosed.
Okay. They said the potential witnesses, and it was interesting as they were questioning the jurors because they were like, do you know this person? Do you know this person? Do you know this person?
36 altogether. I'm just going to run through the notables.
Yeah, okay.
We have Richard Childress, which we joked about it yesterday, man.
Man, Richard Childress is a witness. Please.
Please. For all things holy.
Gosh.
Please. I don't ask for
now,
much.
that said,
please.
Those texts are not, the texts
it doesn't
that came
matter.
out
It doesn't
are not
matter.
permissible.
Richard will, we know Richard enough. We've talked to Richard on the record, off the record enough. He's going to come in there, guns a-blazing, and he is going to tell you whatever is on his mind. And he's got thoughts.
He's not going to be a very coachable witness.
No, he is not. And honestly, if I'm the team that I'm trying to get Richard teed up, I would just replay Richmond 2024.
But who would call him?
I think
NASCAR's not going to call him.
No, NASCAR's certainly not going to call him.
So the teams would call him
because
right?
Richard has been very critical of the business side of NASCAR and leadership. So yes, so Richard Childress is on that list. We knew about Rick Hendrick. We knew about Roger Penske, Heather Gibbs. Denny Hamlin, obviously, Jim France, NASCAR executive Brian Herbst, who you're going to hear probably a lot of throughout the trial, Michael Jordan, Lisa France Kennedy, Jonathan Marshall, the head of the RTA, Steve O'Donnell, Steve Newmark, the former president at RFK Racing, NASCAR Commissioner Steve Phelps, Curtis Polk, NASCAR executive Scott Prime, somebody else who we're going to hear a lot of throughout the trial, Tim Clark, another NASCAR executive, Front Row Motorsports general manager Jerry Freeze, Rob Kaufman, who was instrumental in putting the charter agreement together initially back in 2016. He still is involved behind the scenes. Ben Kennedy, Steve Loletta, president, 2311 Racing, John Probst, Cal Wells, executive at Legacy Motor Club, and that is all of the notables.
Interestingly, not on this list, and I think it was Bob that pointed this out.
No Marcus Smith.
No Marcus Smith. Nobody from SMI, and I think SMI is going to be part of this case, so it's interesting.
I'm really surprised by that. Really surprised by that.
Yeah. All right, so we now get to opening statements. Obviously, the plaintiffs go first. So you have Jeffrey Kessler, who, the famous attorney who has litigated so many of these antitrust claims. And he had some examples to help illustrate his claims, which I bet he's used or thought of in many of these cases over and over again.
This is just interchangeable.
So many of it for him, right? Because But you know what?
They work though. The examples did work.
Exactly. Like for me, even as much as we talked about this case, and we had Shannon McMenemy on last night. Hopefully, we've got a lot of feedback on that episode. By the way, last night, the preview episode. If you missed that one, go check it out because Shannon was excellent, and we had people talking to us about it all day today. So thanks again to her, and we'll definitely have her on again during this trial. But as much as we know about it, I thought that Jeffrey Kessler's explanation of all these issues helped distill it down and help me understand. Oh, okay, like that's why this argument is being made, or that's why they're going for this, or you know what I'm saying? Like, so let's just go through the notes again. This is not in any particular. This is in the order of stuff he talked about, but he essentially says, right, there's two questions for the jurors to answer. Did NASCAR maintain its monopoly by engaging in anti-competitive conduct? And were the teams hurt by the use of this monopoly power if it was unlawfully maintained? So in the court, they talked about, monopoly and monopsony are sort of interchangeable, but essentially a monopsony is instead of you own everything and you're controlling the price for everything. It's the buying power, right? So the teams are selling a service, right? They are premier stock car racing teams selling a service to NASCAR, which is they are trying to get paid for a certain amount, right? So he said it's like a plumber selling services. And if that market is depressed by the monopoly, then the plumber's not going to get enough money. He also later compared it to being a nurse, right? Like, let's say you want to be a nurse and there's only one hospital and the hospital does not want to pay enough money. Your choices as the nurse are you can either accept what you're getting paid or you don't be a nurse. And that's what he's saying the teams are faced with here because they want to compete in premier stock car racing, but they can't do it anywhere else. And so when he's saying that, the teams did, some of the teams, yes, they did sign the charter agreement and stuff like that. His point is, yeah, they were taking what they can get because their options are either do that or go out of business, right? So Jeffrey Kessler lays out the anti-competitive acts that he's accusing NASCAR of doing. And he's saying he's going to show the jury evidence that throughout this trial that NASCAR tied up all the tracks so that a competitor series could not be formed, and thus there could not be another buyer for the team services, right?
There couldn't be a rival series of stock car racing like you saw on the Live Tour, for example, because he referenced that as another example. You couldn't see somebody come in, start up a second stock car racing series. That's what he was referring to there.
So he talks about there's some clause that restricted the eligibility of teams racing elsewhere. One says that you would have to sit out for a year before joining a rival league. I had not seen that or heard that one.
If you own more than 10% of a team.
No, that was a separate thing. If anyone owns more than 10% of a team, you cannot go in to support another stock car event, is what he's claiming he'll show as evidence. Obviously we've heard this that the next gen car is you can't take it to run somewhere else in another series. NASCAR, he's going to show you they were worried about copycat series. He also, everybody get ready to groan. I mean, I can't believe this happened. This really happened. I'm not making this up. He said the prior version of the car was called Gen 6. This is 767. He did. So did that happen? He did it. He did that. He said 67.
But he didn't do it like that. I mean, I don't think you realize that. I think he's made a joke about the numbers because he made a joke about
Jordan. He absolutely did a 6-7.
I think he did a good job of this. Illustrates those. He made a joke about like, this is math and I'm not good at math. Funny how a 7 goes after a 6 because that's what he said. But he was very self-deprecating and he really did a good job of winning over the jury.
Yes, he was very
charming and a
calm,
little subtle.
Yes,
subtly
he was
charming.
not over the top, bombastic.
No, not
New York guy.
No.
But
One thing real quick,
Yeah.
he repeatedly said this, and I think this is a really important thing, and I think this is going to be kind of the crux of what their thing is. Documents don't lie. And
yes, he said witnesses don't always tell the truth. Documents don't lie. And he seemed to really want to hinge this case on those emails and texts that a lot of you have seen, the jury has not, on what the NASCAR executives were talking about to prevent competitors from being formed. And that to show they were worried about it, to show their own documents, he's going to try to use their own words against them, so to speak. Exactly.
Yes, and he said that multiple times, really driving at home, and that's going to be a challenge for NASCAR.
He says that teams must pay hundreds of thousands per year to get the Wi-Fi on pit road,
which often doesn't work at many tracks.
So
ask the crew chiefs about that.
Yeah. I've heard that it's very, very expensive, but
I've heard it's
I have not heard the number, so maybe that number will be coming out.
I've also been told it's not reliable.
Yeah. So let's see what else here. They were talking about how, that he knew that NASCAR was going to say, these teams are saying that they can't make money, but clearly that's not true because 2311 reported a profit, $3 million 1 year.
They've made profit every year but one.
Yeah. And so he says, well, yeah, they have Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan is one of the most popular people in the world for sponsorships. The reason they make a profit is Michael Jordan. But he says Bob Jenkins from Front Row Motorsports has never made a profit in 20 years. And in a 2014 study that NASCAR, I guess NASCAR and the teams both did combined, when they were talking about, is there really a financial problem before the charter system existed? They say the teams lost a combined $85 million in 2014. So he says, yes, NASCAR is going to say, hey, look, we gave you the charter system, right? Okay, we're not a monopoly. We're giving you this. But he's saying that they created that to help the teams survive out of NASCAR's own self-interest, not for the teams to thrive. So,
and then the argument there, of course, is that the teams can't control themselves and that they will spend. And if you give them $3, they're going to spend $4. There's also going to be questions raised probably throughout the trial about sponsorship with Front Row Motorsports and how they allocate it, and are they getting full max sponsorship? So it didn't come up today. You're likely going to hear that come up at other points throughout the trial.
Jeffrey Kessler goes on to say the charters were just a contract that expired, and he compares it to the difference between renting and owning. Mm-hmm. He says that it's like living in the only building it's like having the only building in town that you can live in and having to move somewhere else completely because you can't afford to live there anymore, and they take it away from you. In his opinion, the most important evidence is the three executives, Scott Prime, Steve O'Donnell, and Steve Phelps, talking about how they knew that this was an abusive offer to the teams, and that this Jim France was the one who did not want to give them what they needed in terms of the permanent charters. He talks about how on September 6th, they got their ultimatum, 5 p.m., either sign your charters by midnight or you don't have charters. He says that is monopoly power. That is monopoly injury. And so what teams, go ahead.
I was going to say, in that same breath too, this was interesting, I thought. He said that Goldman Sachs in 2023 said NASCAR was worth $5 billion.
Yeah, so this part was interesting because Goldman Sachs did their own study that says they're worth $5 billion. And this was a number that I don't think was in the documents unless it was one that was all combined. But, it came out that there's this France family trust that has been getting money, that it's the France family, right? And they're getting money from NASCAR. When NASCAR reported their financials, there was an overall number of, NASCAR made $103 million last year, whatever. But there's also this number that was like, it was $140 million last year or something. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
it was 141. Yeah.
Yeah. 141 million went to the France family. So Jeffrey Kessler says he's going to show that the France family got almost $400 million over a recent 3-year period, paid directly to the Frances. That's not NASCAR making the money. That's the France family themselves, he's saying. He's saying that the teams, look, they wanted permanent charters. That wasn't going to cost NASCAR anything. Jim France said no. They wanted $20 million per car without the drivers, without the driver's salary
involved. Yeah, that's
so
just to get the car to the track, because they talked about that. We'll get that later.
Yeah,
they mentioned that with Denny Hamlin.
That's what it costs. That's what the teams say.
Just to get the
is
car
an average to get the car to the racetrack, not driver included, not PR, all that stuff included. Just
no
to
business
get the car.
side,
right?
Just competitive, consistently competitive car. Average cost $20 million.
And so NASCAR increased it with this charter deal, but they increased it to $12.5 million per car. So far short of the $20 million they're saying that they wanted. They wanted a seat at the table. And we've heard that a lot, but what they mean is the teams were asking for a vote on rules. So when NASCAR would say, hey, we're going to come up with this new package or whatever, the teams could vote because they were worried about cost overrunning. NASCAR, according to Jeffrey Kessler, not only refused, but took away a 3 strikes rule, which I'll be honest, I'm not familiar with. He said that there was this former rule from the old charter agreement that said if the teams rejected a rule or a cost something 3 times, that NASCAR wouldn't come back with it. Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's effectively it.
Okay.
So
they took away that
rule. They
rule.
did take that out, yes. Which the teams agreed. 13 of the teams agreed to, yes.
Then the teams asked to be paid 30% of NASCAR making money off the team's intellectual property. And NASCAR said no. They get 0, I guess, from he was saying they get 0 from NASCAR sponsorship deals. When NASCAR sells a sponsorship, does deal with Goodyear, whatever, they get 0. And teams wanted it. They said, if you're going to use our intellectual property for a big sponsorship type thing, can you give us 30%? NASCAR said
That's been a huge hang-up because we've heard a lot about how NASCAR's getting, or the teams are getting what they're getting from the media rights deal. And they are getting more. Let's not forget that. They are getting more. But there are other revenue streams. One you just mentioned, there's some other stuff as well where they don't get a taste. And that has got them very frustrated.
So ultimately, Jeffrey Kessler concludes by saying that Jim France ran NASCAR for the benefit of himself and his family, and his executives knew about it. He apparently said that this is a competition and we are going to win, talking about the negotiations with the teams. So that's the team side.
Right. Yeah.
Now NASCAR has a chance to.
No, just want to real quick. I thought it was interesting how they really kind of leaned into MJ a little bit, like during and I've never seen this before. I haven't covered a ton of trials, but I've been to a few. I've never seen it where they had the individual parties like stand up in the courtroom.
That's true. That was great,
and it was interesting.
He said, I just want to introduce you to my clients, the owners, and he said, I'm going to have Curtis Polk stand up.
Curtis stood up. Curtis did kind of like a half.
Yeah.
And then it went Denny Hamlin, and Denny did a kind of a thing too. And then it was, I don't have to tell you about Michael Jordan because you know who he is. And then he talked about Michael's love for the sport and how he's loved it since he was a child, and the sponsors love him and he wants to be here because he loves it, et cetera, et cetera. And Michael just didn't do like the half thing. Like he stood up and and he stood there too, and just kind of like let everybody kind of soak it in for a second. I don't know if that was by design or not, but just it felt like they leaned on that a little bit. Which hey, you got to.
Well, speaking of potentially another little wrinkle or help for the other side, Chris Yates was then called on to give his opening statement. He is the NASCAR attorney who's been representing their lead person the whole time. The judge, I know the judge even said, Mr. Yates, it's your turn.
At the very beginning of the day, when they did the jury stuff, Yates was sitting at the back table. Right. He wasn't sitting at the front, and he was kind of thrown off. And he was like, wait a second. He's like, oh, you'll hear from me later. Right. Yeah. And then deferred to.
Well, so this other guy who introduced himself as John E. Stevenson said he was just going to do the jury part. Or originally, it sounded like, he said I'm just going to do voir dire or whatever. Sorry, I'm not saying that's legal.
I was told later that he was always designed to do the
No, but I'm saying he didn't say that he was going to do the opening statement. Anyway, the wrinkle I'm getting to is this man, instead of Chris Yates, then gives the entire opening statement on behalf of NASCAR. Now, I don't know why, but I'm just a total guess. Okay. NASCAR could tell me I'm totally wrong and I got this completely wrong. this man has a Southern accent, and this is a Charlotte jury versus going up against a New York lawyer. I would have to think, hey, let's get this, guy who
one of us
speaks more like you, has the, more down home affect. Hey, he'll talk to you about our side and how we're a family business, and and we're going to go into his arguments. But what other reason would they not have Yates do that? What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I checked, and it was always sounds like the plan is for him to do the open and the close, and then Yates is going to take over in the middle. There could be a lot of different reasons. It could be for the reasons you laid out. It could be the fact that Yates they do mock trials. They do all sorts of mock trials. Maybe Yates didn't register. I don't know the reason. It's a little unusual, but we're going to see it as we go forward into Denny Hamlin's testimony. You're going to basically see lawyers trade off. Like, there are just different lawyers because this is such a broad, sweeping case with so many different tentacles. You can't just have one lawyer just focus on everything. You have to kind of divide it up, and you basically parse it out. And this lawyer is going to focus on this, and they're responsible for X witness, and that lets them hone in a little bit more on that and really get down to the nitty gritty.
All right. So obviously the NASCAR arguments, they have a much different perspective than Jeffrey Kessler, right? So Stevenson lays out 3 things that he says are key for the jury to think about here. He talks about how the charter system, the teams asked for this, and he talks about how NASCAR paid every penny of what they promised for 9 years, up the 9 years, the first 9 years of the charter system, and followed through on all that. And he's objecting to the fact that now the teams are going to come and say, hey, you owe us a certain amount of money that you were underpaying us, when he's saying, hey, NASCAR paid
fulfilled all our obligations. Yeah. We had XYZ in the contract
for a 9-year deal, and we
never complained. We were never late on payments. We never did not do anything we said we were going to do. And this goes back to the conversation we've had. Like, NASCAR is going to focus on this as a contract thing. Now, right or wrong, that is very apparent that this is what their focus is going to be. They fulfilled the obligation of their contract, and when the contract came up for renewal, it was, we're not forced to renew this contract. There is, we don't have to do this. We have to willingly do this, and if we don't want to do it, we can walk away.
Number 2, he says, listen, all these things that Jeffrey Kessler just said, he says literally none of those were ever raised with NASCAR as being anti-competitive at any point until this lawsuit was filed. He talks about an email that teams had sent at one point asking for these 8 things.
Right after it was right after the 13 teams had signed.
Right.
And there's 8 points on there, and there's some discourse about, well, actually, like, so some of these things we actually did, and you have to go back and look, and there's miscommunications or oversights, but like basically 7 of these things are all squared away. But none of the stuff that you're alleging later, monopolistic practices, et cetera, none of this was laid out at all in any of the discourse we've had.
So, and he says that Roger Penske is gonna testify that the next gen car was a home run. He also talks about how, yes, these charter negotiations and all that stuff, of course, it ended up, what was his term for it? It was later, a little bit later. He said, shoot, I can't find it.
What are you looking for?
I'm talking about the part where he's saying why they had to end it. At some point you have to fish or cut bait.
Fish or cut bait, yep.
He says that these had been exhaustively negotiated.
And it wasn't,
he says there had been 70 conversations over 2.5 years.
70 conversations meetings,
yeah.
Yes.
With the teams, and that they're making it out like there was just sudden deadline, but there was 70 conversations, and so like he said, at some point you have to fish or cut bait. He says that he's going to show evidence from Curtis Polk saying that a lawsuit is our greatest leverage, and that the teams plan to negotiate through litigation. That's what this lawsuit is about, not actually an antitrust thing.
He said, yeah, and I thought this was an interesting point by him. It's like, ignore the elephant in the room, and you're going to hear, like, he acknowledged the France family has a lot of money. They have made money. The people that are going to be taking the stand on the executive level for NASCAR make good money, right? There's no hiding that fact. So let's put that out there. But he did call but then he goes, the France family, they are an American success story. And they got to this point from hard work, risk taking, innovation. Yeah.
And he says the fact that they are an American success story, that kind of effort shouldn't result in a lawsuit. It should result in admiration, was his line on that.
Yep. Charter system also created an asset. Going back to what we said, NASCAR didn't have to do this. Teams wanted this. NASCAR agreed, and now the charter.
He says it created 1.5 billion in total value with all the charters.
Yep. And the charter values now are minimum $45 million, if not more now.
He said that some owners spend whatever it takes to win, so it's not surprising they didn't make money. They're not in it to make a profit. That's his quote.
And that goes back to what we said earlier, which is that some teams, if you give them $3, they're going to spend $4, and that this isn't an issue about what percentage of the money they're getting. It's the fact that the teams overspent.
He talks about how 2311 bought multiple charters, Front Row
3 times, and continued to buy charters even though they knew the terms of the deals, and they still are reinvesting in a charter agreement in an economic model they didn't agree with.
And Front Row, he says, bought and sold and leased charters to made a total of $12 million buying and selling these charters. And he says, does it make sense that astute business people would invest? Use your common sense. He talks about how the text that came out, he says, listen, he's preemptively saying, yeah, you're going to see some text. You're going to see some language from our executives. He said, people get frustrated, was his quote, in a 2.5 year negotiation where it's a long, drawn out process. And
they wanted the deal done.
He says the evidence will show that the executives desired to meet the teams in the middle. That's not the conduct or attitude of someone trying to exercise monopoly power, he says. He also says that the teams are getting a combined $100 million more in the new charter deal. NASCAR got $41 million less in the new charter deal. He says that they are getting $431 million combined. And when you add that up, they are also getting average of $640 million in sponsor dollars for race teams. Now, obviously, that has nothing to do with NASCAR. The teams got those sponsors on their own. But he says that race teams in NASCAR make a combined $640 million per year on average. And so when you combine that with the charter payouts, the teams are making more than $1 billion combined. And so again, he says these are not signs of a monopoly.
Can we mention airspeed really quick?
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
That's right.
Also in Denny's testimony, but yeah.
Well, Denny confirmed it later.
Yeah,
but it got brought up in NASCAR's opening statement. They said that airspeed, which is 2311's big race shop, cost $35 million. We knew that it cost a lot of money. We didn't really know exactly how much, but this is the first time it's been acknowledged. Airspeed cost $35 million to build.
He says that these teams are suing the 81-year-old patriarch of NASCAR, and he says that if charters are so bad, why do great business people keep buying them? If charters are so bad, why do they want to make them permanent? Does it seem right that every penny for 9 years was paid, and then you try to ask for hundreds of millions more? He asked the jury to keep an open mind because obviously the plaintiffs are going to be going first. So, Jordan, we are now on to witness number 1. Denny Hamlin
appropriately
is testifying first in this case.
Yeah.
Now we did not get maybe we're about halfway through Denny Hamlin's testimony or something. We're an hour into Denny Hamlin being on the stand.
We got more to come. They haven't really gotten to the nitty gritty. The Cliff Notes version of Denny's testimony, a lot of it was a lot of background stuff.
Yeah, there were some funny little things.
Oh, Denny was great.
They said they asked him, "Did you graduate high school?"
Yeah.
And he said, "They gave me a diploma."
Yeah, and he joked about
it. Michael Jordan laughed loudly at that.
Mm-hmm.
They asked when he got started racing a car for the first time.
Yep.
He said, "I am under oath." So he said 16, but I am under oath. So it was actually 15 and a little bit of change.
Yep. They asked him about the 2025 season, asked him how that went. Can I plead the fifth on that one?
Yes.
That was a great quote. That got an MJ laugh too.
Yes. And she said, I don't think anybody is prosecuting you. And he said that he explained to the jury that he won the most races this year, was leading the championship with 3 laps to go, and a caution came out. But, I've looked at their faces. They don't understand this at all. I mean,
let's talk about that at the end. They didn't, so what are you talking about now? They didn't seem, I don't say engaged, but they just had a long day.
There's a lot of blank faces there, I think.
Well, here's the one thing I got out of this today, especially early on. There's a lot of minutia in sport, man. You're going to, charters and, all these acronyms, ISC, SMI, front row. If you don't know racing at all, we get confused sometimes. Jeffrey Kessler referred to Row Motorsports as front row racing. There's all of these, just this vernacular in the sport. It's a lot. It can be really confusing. And the idea is to have jurors who don't really have an understanding of NASCAR or, that kind of thing. And when you look at their faces, and they look like deers in the headlights. But again, it's a really long read
on them, and you're just like, I don't see really anything.
No, they look tired too.
They were engaged when Denny Hamlin was asked how he got started racing, and he got choked up immediately, started really crying, and was trying to find the words. And finally he explained to them, my dad is not in great health. He talked about how his parents financed his career until they were almost broke. They asked him how he got paired up with Michael Jordan. And, I knew this story, and it just hit me though, standing in the courtroom, how this one moment might have not just created a race team, but could have changed NASCAR history, because it was during COVID, right? And you guys probably have heard the story before about how there was this fake article or something. It was a fake tweet or a fake story.
There was rumors going on.
Clickbait story about Denny Hamlin teaming up with Michael Jordan to buy Richard Petty Motorsports. Denny Hamlin says, it was true that I was sniffing around trying to buy a minority stake in Richard Petty Motorsports, but it wasn't true that Michael Jordan was involved. So he says, I remember it clearly. I was golfing on the 9th hole. It was my second shot. I saw this article. I said to my friends, what should I do? They said, send it to Michael Jordan. He texted Michael Jordan and said, hey, look at this. I guess we're partners now. And Michael Jordan texted back, it's not true, but if you want to make it real, let me know. So think about this. This led to the creation of the team and all this stuff, right? If that article doesn't happen, and maybe Denny tries to start a team or whatever, or maybe Denny owns a team. Michael Jordan's not a team owner. This lawsuit never happens.
Fake news potentially could ruin NASCAR.
I'm just saying, what if that article, right? I mean, without Michael Jordan bankrolling this lawsuit,
because
this lawsuit doesn't happen.
Denny explained today too during his testimony that originally the idea for him was to partner with somebody already in the sport, to basically buy into an existing team, minority ownership stake, and then eventually take it over full time when his driving days are over. But there really wasn't an opportunity that kind of aligned with what he was looking for. There was no fit, and then came the MJ thing. And he had been talking to the Petty team, the Petty group at that time, which Andrew Merstein owned the team, a majority of the team, and that didn't really go anywhere. And I got the ball rolling with that text.
So he talks about how this is a sponsorship-driven sport, and he knew that if he had Michael Jordan, he would have a chance, because if I couldn't be successful with Michael as a partner, I was never going to make this work. He says, there's a saying among us owners, we're essentially professional fundraisers. And he disclosed that 2311 Racing has 140 employees, and he has been challenged by his business partners to run the team as lean as possible. But he says that part of that is only because of their alliance with JGR. And he disclosed that 2311 pays approximately $8 million per year to JGR to have the alliance that they do with that team. So that was a number that I don't think was out there before.
I haven't seen a number before. I've heard it, but I've never seen it out there confirmed publicly. Dan Hantland also confirmed the airspeed cost of $35 million. Also confirmed the $20 million to build a consistently competitive team. That does not include the business side, which is driver salary, marketing, social media, etc. That's just to get the car to the track.
He took several shots as well at NASCAR for taking sponsors.
Yeah.
He talked about how NASCAR took Geico, Germain Racing sponsor, and that's how he got their charter, because he said they went out of business after they lost their sponsor to NASCAR. He says they contact our sponsors and we have to fight against them. So, I mean, he said it like 3 different times.
There was a couple little digs on there.
Yeah.
There was, yeah. He talked about the teams. The number of teams have closed up over the years.
Yeah. What did he say? He said like 11 out of the 19 original charter teams have gone out of business. Mm-hmm. He says there's only one side going out of business in this case.
Costs
he says, yeah, go ahead.
The costs aren't covered to put on their show.
Yeah, your costs aren't covered to put on their show. Right. And finally, did we mention that he says we talked about they generated $45 million in sponsorship.
They did, and they attribute that to the Michael factor.
Yes, and that's the only way that they've made money. And that was in 22, 23, and 24. He said they generated that much. So that is where we left off for today, and that's really all we have. I mean, it's just
interesting to see. Today was like a lot of the Denny stuff was kind of the background, and a lot of they asked Denny about how many charters are there, how many, just kind of factual stuff you kind of get on the record. They kind of used him as that of how many cars start a race, how many open cars are there, that kind of thing. Tomorrow, then you kind of started building up a little bit more into the interesting stuff, and I think tomorrow is really going to be that's going to be interesting, especially when he's cross-examined.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. So thanks everybody for checking this out. We'll be back with you again tomorrow for another episode, and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday.
Live coverage on The Athletic too.
Yep, we've already got a story up, I believe, posted as we were doing this, and we're going to have more. So please check out our work on The Athletic as well. Support there. But thanks everybody for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one.